Where beavers build dams across small streams in former pasture, water spreads into shallow pools and channels.
In a patch of sunlit grass, a zebra foal wobbles on new legs, its stripes
It's beautiful out here tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad we found this spot.
Around fresh dung dropped by large herbivores, beetles set to work almost immediately, shaping moist balls and rolling.
Their presence felt more than seen, turning each hesitant step into a decision between thirst and risk.
A wave of locusts pours across the grassland like drifting smoke, millions of wings turning sunlight into flicker.
At a shallow waterhole fringed by green steppe, wild conic horses drink, pour.
Deep within a patch of tall grass, field mice weave a spherical nest from stems, leaves, and fine roots.
On a green flat punctuated by scattered trees, giraffes feed high above the ground. Southern ground hornbills patrol the savanna on foot, their dark bodies and bright throats rising above the short grass like
platinum. Southern caracaras patrol a cattle pasture on foot, moving with an almost casual confidence between hooves and
on a grassy.
On migration across the Eurasian steppe, steppe eagles pause on low earth mounds that rise just enough above the grass to offer a clear soils. Newly hatched plover chicks, no larger than a handful of grass, rely on stillness and pattern to escape detection.
In the open grass and scrub of the Cerrado, a giant anteater moves with
African wild dogs spread into a loose line as they move through the open plain, ears swiveling, noses testing the air for the faintest hint of prey.
In dry grasslands far from permanent water, sandgrass parents soak their belly feathers at a distant pool.
A honey badger tears into the turf of a grassy patch with remarkable speed, flipping sods and sending clumps of soil.
In a field of winter stubble, a covey of partridges huddles close to the ground, their feathers matching the page.
In an Australian white grassland, rovers perform intricate dances in the shallow water, bowing.
On a patch of closely cropped grass, male prairie chickens gather at first light to boom, stamp and leap in a shared arena known as a lek.
Male bustards display on a short grass plain, transforming themselves from sleek, heavy birds.
On the open steppe, saiga females give birth almost simultaneously, their newborn calves lying
At the edge of a quiet forest, a lynx steps silently into a narrow band of grass, its spotted coat blurring against trunk and stem.
In a sunny gap between clumps of grass, quail take turns lowering themselves into a shallow bowl of dust.
Keep the line tight along the break. Roger that, watching the wind.
As evening light flattens shadows across the savannah, a lioness sinks low into the wind-rippled grass.
On a windswept headland, high above the ocean.
Male mannequins turn a simple patch of ground into a display stage, leaping, spinning and snapping their pops.
On a spring prairie thick with new growth, bison walk slowly through.
These small design changes reduce injuries, keep migration routes open, and show how.
On a closely grazed field, a lapwing nest lies all but invisible among short clumps of grass.
As Hereford cattle push through thick pasture grass, their hooves flush grasshoppers and other insects into sudden leaps.
On a moonlit steppe, golden jackals stand on a gentle rise.
In a protected steppe reserve, a Przewalski's foal stays within a few strides of its mother. In the middle of that cattle field, a small patch of
On a high, windswept plateau, Tibetan gazelles stand poised.
A secretary bird advances through the savannah with measured, stilt-like steps.
Across a wide swathe of green floodplain, a herd of African buffalo advances toward a loop.
In a sunlit clearing, young deer fawns weave and tumble through a field of clover. In the dappled shade of scattered trees, zebras stand in pairs, each animal's teeth. At the soft boundary between forest and grassland, gaur feed on the rich fringe of green.
Fly above the steppe, flocks of demoiselles thread across the sky in long.
On a low mound rising from short, sunlit grass, meerkat sentries stand upright.
On a high moor, thick fog clings low over the grass and heather, muting sound and color until...
When a cheetah commits to a chase, the quiet calm of the plain is shattered by an explosion of speed, its spine flexing like a bow.
Across a sunlit clearing, leafcutter ants form moving rivers of green, each worker carrying a neatly cut The young birds dash from shade to shade, their small legs working furiously, while larks provide on a monsoon-fed plain, nilgai move in a loose herd, their lips methodically cropping the new flush of grass. On a lawn of cropped turf, warthogs drop onto their front knees so their snouts can reach the very base of the grass, plucking each bite with delicacy. In a meadow heavy with morning dew, lapwing chicks press their speckled bodies flat against the soil, disappearing among the glittering stems. As light drains from the sky, a black-backed jackal moves through knee-high grass, each step placed with deliberate care.
From the top of a termite mound rising from short grass, a meerkat stands upright, scanning the horizon while its companion.
Across a broad, flowering steppe, saiga calves trot close behind their mothers. Tall secretary birds stride through shoulder-high savanna grass, their long legs ending in powerful feet that deliver sudden, stamping blows.
On an Arctic meadow, just clear of snow, musk oxen graze in a tight group.
At ground level in a meadow under moonlight, click beetles send out tiny pulses of light between the stems. On an open plain brushed by a steady wind, springbok break into bouts of pronking. On wet prairie where water seeps between dense tussocks, white storks stride with unhurried confidence.
On a savanna darkened by approaching wall of rain, a herd of buffalo bunched together.
Near the mouth of a burrow dug into frozen ground, Arctic fox kits tumble and chase across a patch of
On the pampas, deer glide almost silently through tall, golden-green grass.
On a mosaic of grass and low scrub, a giant anteater swings its long snout from side to side.
On an open steppe meadow, demoiselle cranes face each other in careful pairs, leaping and calling.
Along a riverbank trimmed to a living carpet, capybaras move shoulder to shoulder, their blunt muzzles shaving away mouthfuls of tender grass. Along the sharp line where melting snow meets newly exposed grass, alpine chows hop and fly, probing.
Among tall grass stems, weaver ants form living bridges with their own bodies, linking swaying blades together so they
Under a clear, star-filled sky, herds of herd cattle and zebra rest scattered on a warm, damp night. High above the plains, raptors ride invisible columns of rising air, tracing wide circles.
Within the dense tangle of clover and grass, field mice move along established runways, their tiny feet tread.
Keep pulling those roots out.
We've made good progress over here.
Watch out for the thorns on this one.
In Los Caras cranes, Janes wade through shallow paddies at the margins.
On a patch of moorland where grass and heather intermingle, a stoat slips between clumps with liquid ease.
This is the finest bull in the market. I won't go below 50,000.
50,000 is too much. I'll give you 35 cash right now.
On a flat expanse of grassland, male sage grouse gather at dawn to perform elaborate displays.
In a patch of long grass,
Across a semi-arid steppe, just beginning to green after rain, a camel caravan moves in sync.
In a carefully managed burn, small patches of prairie are set alight, while neighboring areas remain green and untouched.
On a high plateau pasture, yak calves break away from grazing adult. Around an active African termite mound, indigenous grasses and wildflowers grow thicker and greener.
During the hottest hours of the day, a mob of eastern grey kangaroos retreats to the shade of scattered trees.
At the edge of a meadow where green grass runs up to the shadow of the forest, a lynx pauses, its tufted ears sharp against the fading light.
In a patch of brushy grass, a pair of dik-diks moves with delicate bouncing steps.
Long after the final whistle, a hedgehog crosses a dew-covered football pitch, its snout testing the air and turf for earthworms and fallen insects.
In a clover-rich field, male little bustards perform sudden jumping displays, their bodies popping above the grass in
After harvest, common cranes move through stubble fields bordering patches of green grass, probing for spilled grain, rodents, and invertebrates.
Under a rising moon, the grasslands appear as a gentle swell of dark green.
Under cold moonlight, a hyena stands motionless in the grass, head tilted as it sifts through a tapestry of distant sounds.
Around scattered termite mounds, Egyptian geese and whistling ducks.
Across a short grass plain cropped close by many mouths, blue wildebeest advance in a broad front, their heads bobbing in unison as they walk.
On a mist-veiled mountain pasture, takin move slowly between rocks and clumps of grass, their massive heads swinging as they graze. From high nesting ledges, barnacle goose families hurry their goslings down to a low meadow washed in fresh green.
A serval listens intently before launching into a high, arsing pounce that ends with its paws deep in the wet soil. On a gentle slope scattered with low flowers and short grass, a steppe tortoise inches its way uphill.
At the edge of a forest meadow, wild boar plough the turf with their snouts, turning compacted.
In a marsh where open water has slowly given way to stands of grass and reeds,
Over a wetland where grass gives way to pools and mud, lapwings launch steep, twisting attacks at under
cover of darkness, raccoon dogs move through a damp meadow, their noses tracing scent trails invisible in the pale glow of infrared.
On an open veld stretching to the horizon, a pair of white rhinoceros graze shoulder to shoulder.
In a wet tundra meadow patterned with shallow pools and mossy grass, caribou cows guide their unsteady.
In flattened floodplain grass close to a quiet pool, an African rock python lies in heavy coils.
On a broad plan dotted with sage and resilient grasses, pronghorns travel in a loose line at a steady trot.
Across a darkened grassland, herds of saiga antelope and American bison lie.
On a plain washed in harsh midday light, a small group of zebras crowds into... Across a stretch of short savanna grass, a secretary bird strides with long, deliberate steps.
Across a darkened grassland, herds of saiga antelope and American bison lie.
On a plain washed in harsh midday light, a small group of zebras crowds into...
At the edge of a marsh, a reedbuck steps through dew-laden grass, its coat beading with moisture as low mist clings to the ground.
In low tundra grass, an Arctic ground squirrel stands upright at the mouth of its burrow, lips twitching as it
In a flooded hollow of a bright green meadow, a water buffalo sinks deep into the mud, rolling side to side until coated in cooling clay.
On the open steppe, saiga settle into shallow hollows they have scraped in the grass, their bodies fitting neatly into the wind-sheltered cups.
On a short grass clearing, dwarf mungoos work in a tight group, flipping clods of turf and scattering beetle larvae in the exposed soil.
From a green hayfield, skylarks rise one by one.
At the base of a tall termite mound, a leopard lies half in shadow, its rosetted fur broken into fragments.
Beside a small spring ringed with damp, trampled grass, a caracal crouches.
Beneath distant snow peaks.
Between low coastal dunes anchored by tough grass, red-necked wallabies bound in short, elastic leaps.
Along a willow fringe creek, bison lower their massive heads to crop rich, moisture-fed grass, their breath steaming in the cool morning air.
Across a sun-warmed floodplain, a monitor lizard slips between damp grass stems. Its
High on a steep alpine wall, chamois move along narrow terraces of grass, hopping lightly over gaps that plunge away into space below. Between two jagged peaks, a narrow saddle holds a strip of grass where ibex file across in single.
In a patchwork of short grass and wildflowers, bat-eared fox pups bounce from clump to clump. On rolling hills brushed with long grass and scattered shrubs, Eland move in an unhurried line. On flats recently released from floodwater, elephants move through tender new grass, curling it deftly.
On a semi-arid steppe where low, wiry grass clings to sandy soil, a pair of ostriches
on fence clingfidgets, flintstalks, their bright bodies bobbing.
Around a cluster of resting African wild dogs, pups erupt into sudden races, vanishing and reappearing in tall grass. Above a winter grassland washed in muted greens and browns, a short-eared owl flies low.
Across a flowering stretch of veld, a Cory bustard strides with measured authority, its head
On a slope where winter's snow is withdrawing in uneven patches, ptarmigan pick at the first green blades pushing through damp soil.
In a sedge-filled meadow where water collects between raised clumps of grass, wattled cranes.
At the crest of a grassy ridge, eastern grey kangaroos stand upright, their ears pricked.
In a shallow pool held in a grassy hollow, a grass snake glides just beneath the surface. Its slender,
where dunes have been pinned in place by grass and hardy shrubs, oryx break into a gallop, their straight horns cutting clean lines against.
On a low knoll rising just above wetter plains, toppy graze on a lawn of short, nutrient-rich grass. At the shifting border between sand dunes and steppe, wild Bactrian camels crop tough tufts of grass. At the fringe of thick rainforest, a small glade opens to reveal bright grass, where Anoa. On a clover-speckled field, bustard chicks run in short, determined bursts between the denser.
In a sunlit clearing, agamas hold their positions atop grass clumps and stones, bodies flattened to absorb the warmth that saturates the ground.
Along the crest of a gently sloping ridge, hartebeests stand in profile against the evening sky.
On a treeless tundra meadow, muskoxen lie in a loose circle, their heavy coats touching as they rest through the cold, pale night.
At the base of grass tussocks, faint green-blue light seeps from tiny fungi and glowworms. In a mixed-height grassland, zebras slowly circle the greenest, most nutrient-rich patches. On a short grass savanna bleached by midday heat, a cheetah and her cub lie in the narrow shadow of a lone bush, flanks rising and falling.
In a field edged with frost, hooded cranes move with careful steps, their bills probing beneath the cold.
In a narrow valley slowly filling with evening mist, musk deer move cautiously through waist-high.
On a moonlit steppe, a Corsac fox stands statue still, its pale coat almost the same tone as the bleached grass around it. On winter meadows held just below the waterline, whooper swans tip their long necks into the shallows to crop submerged shoots and roots.
In a shallow hollow lined with green, a band of wild horses and a group of saiga drink.
Across the high puna, vicunas spread out to graze evenly spaced bunches of hardy grass, careful not to exhaust any single clump.
Along the shifting boundary where heather meets grass.
On a short, cropped river meadow, greylag goslings press against the flanks of resting adults.
They're across a braided river system where grassy bars break the current into many channels. Waterbuck and cob pick their way carefully through knee-deep water.
Just before returning to the water, hippos graze quickly along a night-fed lawn of short grass.
As thunderheads build on the horizon, common swifts cut low arcs over a darkening green pasture.
On an open spring prairie, pronghorn fawns launch into short, explosive races, zigzagging between low.
On a rocky promontory above grassy slopes, a bearded vulture stands motionless, feathered.
In a forest glade, where sunlight reaches down to feed a ring of grass and herbs, a capercaillie hen.
On steep Himalayan slopes carved into natural terraces of grass, Himalayan tahr move with sure-footed ease.
On a pale green plain, blurred at the edges by heat haze, gemsboks stand almost above a hay meadow humming with crickets. From above, the tundra reveals a network of pale paths etched through moss and grass, roots carved by.
On a steppe, once hushed by plough and dust, restored grassland now sways in the wind.
Along the river's edge, a tiger slips through tall grass in nuance. In a light dappled clearing beneath sparse woodland, giant sable antelopes move with
On the pale fringe surrounding a salt pan, sire graze on strips of grass that find root where salinity
Under a dim sky, night herons stalk slowly along narrow ditches choked with grass, each step sending rip.
Along the edge where tall cerrado grasses meet scattered scrub, a maned wolf drifts past on impossibly.
In a lush, shallowly flooded pasture, crowned cranes walk with deliberate care.
On a sunlit plain, two blackbuck males lower their spiraling horns and push, twisting against each other in brief, swirling bouts of strength. In tall spring grass, saiga calves lie pressed flat against the ground, their mottled coats breaking up. On a windswept steppe brushed with low, pale green grass, a band of onagers walks in single file.
At the edge of a soda lake ringed by low, salt-tolerant grass, flamingos sweep their bills upside down through the clouds.
Under a high desert moon, kangaroo rats launch in long, arsing jumps between sparse tufts of grass. In a quiet grass clearing, an aardvark stands over a low mound and digs, its powerful claws sending clods of soil backwards in steady rhythm.
On a damp prairie where last year's stubble mingles with new green blades, snow geese graze. From high above, first light moves in waves across interconnected plains, revealing.
On an open tundra meadow, reindeer rest in loose groups, some lying, some standing with heads low.
At the edge of a mist-draped meadow, a bull elk throws back his head and bugles, the sound carrying over wet grass.